Hello, hello, and welcome to another session of Important Conversations. As you guys know already, I am a huge personal wellness junkie, and I'm also a certified health and life coach and soon to be master coach, which is super exciting. So, my goal with this series is to really help people understand unresolved childhood and the effects that it has in adulthood. So I really hope to just educate people, empower others to want to start their own personal journey towards healing and just shed a light on this taboo topic. So today I want to welcome a very good friend of mine, Melissa, and she's joining us today all the way from the other side of the world. What time is it there, Melissa?
It is almost 8:30 in the morning on Wednesday.
That's right. And for me, it is almost 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday. So this has been a conversation that we have been trying to come together on for quite some time. So I am very excited to finally be in the presence of Melissa. And so I just kind of want to start off by saying thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today and having this conversation. Why don't you start off by just telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Melissa Holman, and I am a certified life coach, soon to be master life coach. And I work mostly with moms who are struggling, just struggling in general. But I notice a lot of them are feeling much overwhelmed and sometimes a little bit of unfulfillment. So I work with moms to help them feel whole again and find that inner peace that they're lacking. And I actually just got the best testimonial yesterday at the end of the session. She said to me, "My husband looks forward to my sessions because I'm so much happier now." So to me, my passion in life is seeing other people succeed. So that right there, I was like, okay, we're on the right path. So,
That's
yeah,
beautiful. I
thank you.
love that. So are you working on anything currently?
Right now, I just finished up a 6-week live course, and that will be going live again in September. So we'll start enrolling people again come August. And I mean, it's the end of July, so it's just right around the corner, and we'll get some more people into that course. It's called 5 Steps from Chaos to Peace.
Ooh.
And I think one of the best testimonials I got was from an empty nester mom in the group, and she struggles greatly with frustration with other people. And they went on vacation in the middle of the course, and she said that was the first vacation they've ever been on where she didn't get overwhelmed and angry with her family. And I was just like, I was almost tearing up. I
I
was
can
like, that is amazing.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Well, it sounds like you're doing lots of beautiful work in the world.
oh,
So
thank you.
we are very lucky to have you here speaking today. So I want to kind of start off this conversation with asking you, what are a few things that inspire you?
Oh my gosh, the things that inspire me would have to be my kids.
Mm,
Um, that's number one. That's the thing. That's number one. I never wanted to be a mom. Like growing up, that was never a dream of mine.
mm,
And when I met my oldest son, he was 8 years old, and he came up to me, big toothy grin, hair all over the place, and said, "Hi, my name is Dan." And my heart melted and I fell in love. And then I
aw,
married his dad and adopted him and his sister and had 2 more kids. And it's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
mm,
And I would not be who I am today had I not fallen in love with that little 8-year-old boy.
I agree. Kids, I have one of my own and he's 6 now. And I can actually relate to when I was younger. I never had a dream of being a parent either. And it wasn't until my mid to late 20s actually that I first got that inkling of, hey, maybe I want this. And ever since having my son, my world has completely been rocked in all the most amazing and most difficult ways, but it's been such a beautiful journey. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then the other thing that inspires me is just honestly, helping other moms. And I know that probably sounds like a sales pitch, and I guarantee you it is not. I feel amazing after I've worked with
Mm.
any of my clients, and I see the shifts in them, and I hear the insights that they've gained, and just seeing them move from most of the women who start with me start like this,
Mm.
and then they gradually sit up and they start smiling. That right there is inspiration to me. I love it.
Yes, and it is true. I feel like sometimes in what we do, right, in our world of things, being coaches, I feel like sometimes I love to educate people around what it is that we do. And what we do is exactly what you said. We inspire others, we educate others, and we help others. And that's what it's about. It's about helping other people. And
Yes.
one of the most beautiful things about what we do is that not only do we get to help other people, but in helping others, we also get to help ourselves and continue to grow in the process. So it's like this never ending
Yes.
loop of personal growth, right?
Yes, right.
It's such,
Exactly.
such a beautiful journey. Yeah,
Yes, yes, because I can't expect my clients to go further than I've gone myself.
exactly.
And one of the things that I tell people all the time, every coach needs a coach.
Hmm.
We can't stop growing because we want you to grow.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just made a huge investment, as I was saying to you prior to pressing record, in my business. So it is true. As coaches, we are continuously investing in ourselves, just like we ask clients to do, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think it's beautiful. It's almost like we're leading by example, right? If you're showing up to be of service, then you're leading by example, and that's very
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So I would like to shift gears a little bit here, and I would like to ask you, what are some of your beliefs around or understanding around the effects that unresolved childhood trauma can have in adults? Loaded,
Okay.
loaded question.
That's a big one. Let's take a deep breath there. Um, Understanding that trauma, and this might be hard for a lot of people to grasp, trauma is not what happens to us. It is the response inside of our bodies for what happened. How what the sense we make of it is what dictates what's going to be going on here.
Hmm.
So I have all of these things running through my head. So you have the thing that happened, whenever it happened,
Hmm.
whatever age it was, and something happens inside your body at that moment. Now, every time my brain replays what happened, the same thing happens inside my body again and again and again. And by shoving it down, pretending it didn't exist, forgetting it, all of those are coping techniques. But by doing that and not allowing my body to recalibrate and figure out how to handle that physiological response, I'm causing blocks in my body. Things are getting stuck, things are getting blocked. And unless I learn how to release those blocks, and there's so many different ways to do that, but if I don't release those blocks, disease will happen because my body is in stress. My body is under stress. All disease happens in a state of stress.
Hmm.
So if I can't let those blocks go, if I can't release those blocks some way, that energy is going to get stuck, whether it's in the liver, the gallbladder, the heart, stomach, the ovary, wherever, it's going to get stuck. And then things are going to go awry.
Yeah, I definitely 100% agree with that. I feel like when we talk about trauma, it's impossible not to talk about energy, right? Which is
Yes.
what we are talking about now, energy, emotions, the internal stuff, right? Often when we talk about trauma, we think of, like you said, the event that happened and the things that happened. But this is exactly what I tell people as well, not to detract from what happened because it was traumatic, but
Mhm.
the issues and the problems lie within the response that our body had, like what you
Yes.
said. And then you
Yes.
end up playing that perpetually on loop until you're ready to release it, because it's this energy, this emotion that wants to pass through you. But because, fear, shame, guilt, all those low vibrational frequencies, you hang on to it, right? And you stay
Mhm.
stuck. And that's why we stay suffering and we stay in so much pain.
Right. And
Because,
we think it's all mental. We think
right.
it's all mental, right? I just need to get over this. I just need to move on. I need to
Yeah.
forget it and move on. But there's something in our body,
Mm,
inside our body, that says we're not moving on
mm,
until you let this go.
mhm,
And letting it go is not it's not about forgetting.
mm,
It's not about forgive and forget, right? This is something I think our society has totally screwed up. Forgive and forget, they are not synonymous.
mm,
And forgive doesn't mean forgetting what happened.
mm,
Forgiving means saying what happened mattered, and I choose to move on.
mm. So, would you say that forgiveness is for the other person, or would you say that forgiveness is for self?
Forgiveness is for me,
Mm,
because if I can't say what happened mattered, you hurt me, you did this thing to me. If I can't say those words and say I still choose to move on, then it's going to be stuck.
yeah. And I feel like that is a huge misconception, right? And I feel like that's maybe one of the biggest reasons why people don't want to work on the trauma, is because they feel like they're, I think we all know that forgiveness is a part of it, because it is that piece is talked about, but it's not talked about in the right way.
Mhm.
The way that it's conceived or preconceived is that we all think that it means letting the other person off the hook. It's
Right,
not about the other person at all, right? It's about us. It's about
right,
us saying, I forgive you. I'm letting you off the hook to ourself, essentially.
right.
Right. So I love reframing that whole idea around forgiveness not being for anybody else but for ourselves, because here's the thing, you can't control anything outside of you. And if you are expecting, for somebody else to say I'm sorry, or for you to be able to forgive them, then you're then giving your power over to that person,
Mhm.
hoping and praying that one day maybe they'll see the light and they'll feel remorse, or they'll feel whatever it is you want them to feel.
Right, right.
Right.
And maybe they will. Maybe they will.
Maybe they will.
Maybe they won't.
Mhm.
What they choose to do with what they have with what they've done in their lives is their business. I have to take ownership of what's happened inside of me.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to touch back on, I feel like there's stages to the healing journey. It's not like one and done. It's not a one thing fixes everything, or one time and you're going to be cured or you're going to feel like a completely different person. I feel like it's a process. And it's in my belief that one of the first stages is vulnerability, right? Being able to step into vulnerability. I feel like that is where the healing journey starts, and that's the
Yes.
only place that it can start.
Yeah. Someone asked me the other day, what do you mean by vulnerability? Because I was talking about being vulnerable. And I'm kind of a visual person, which is funny because I don't consider myself an artistic person, but I visualize things very well.
Mm,
And I said, to me, vulnerability is peeling my rib cage back and allowing you to see my heart.
mm,
Whether that's me standing in front of the mirror and opening up my rib cage so I can see my own heart, or if I need to be vulnerable with you. And that's scary. That is so scary, because if I pull, the ribs are there to protect, right? And if I pull my ribs back, I'm wide open and you can hurt me. And if I'm looking in the mirror and I see my heart wide open, I can hurt myself. So to me, vulnerability is that visualization of I'm pulling my rib cage open and allowing you to peek inside and see the heart of me.
I absolutely love what you just said. And I want to add to that by saying that the protection piece that you were talking about, our rib cage is there to physically protect our heart. And it's like what we do, right? The triggers, how we react is doing that exact same thing, trying to keep us safe, right? Yes. We're not even doing it knowingly most of the time. It's a response, and yes. It's like autopilot, and it's from the past. And I love that, because it then you're taking something physical and again internalizing it and turning it into that emotional, that thought connection, right? The body, the mind connection, because that is what it's about. Yes. Right? Oh, I love that. That was beautiful. Thank you for painting that picture so beautifully. That was wonderful.
It's scary.
It is scary.
It's wonderful, but it's scary.
It is. It's probably one of the scariest things you can do is be vulnerable, because it's maybe even for the first time ever, you're being yourself, right? You're fully exposed, and yes. You don't have your guards up, and that's not really how we operate in today's society. We everybody goes around with their guard up for whatever reason. We're all holding on to this baggage, these traumas, and that's a big part of this whole disconnect that we have as society, right? We're all disconnected. We're all on our phones, earbuds in. We don't make eye contact. And now, with COVID, it's even worse. You can't even see people smiling anymore, right? So it's like, it's an even more bigger disconnection than it was before. And
and that's all survival. It's all survival techniques.
Yeah, absolutely.
All survival.
Absolutely. That's where, freeze, fight, flight, fawn, all those come in. Those are responses of fear, out of survival, protection. And those are all instinctual responses, which back in the day had a very wonderful purpose, but we don't live in the jungle anymore. We don't live with, around dinosaurs or lions or bears. Right.
Well, even coming even closer, I have a client who hides. And her childhood trauma, she had to hide to survive. And she still hides. She doesn't run and hide in the corner. Instead, she does this.
Right.
When things get rough,
yeah,
she does this. It's hiding.
So isn't it amazing that those, I'm going to call them, they were survival techniques, turn into habits, and then those habits we carry with us into our adult life, right? And I think
and it's almost like it becomes part of our personality.
Yeah, but it's not, right?
And people look at that and go, "Oh, that's just the way Melissa is."
Yeah, so it's almost like it's pardoned in a sense, right? Pardoned or not acknowledged as a problem, as an issue.
Yes.
And I think that's really, that's interesting how we revert back to those ways of coping, which served us, but they don't serve us. That's what we have to realize. I think that's a major key component here, is the awareness of that. For example, your client who hides behind her phone, that's not serving her anymore, right? And furthermore, she doesn't have anything that she needs to hide from anymore. The threat's not there.
The threat's not there, but the physiological response has not been released.
Exactly.
She's still stuck in her body.
Yes.
So every time something happens that causes that part of her brain to go, "We're about to die," whether that's it's time to cook dinner and I don't want to,
Mm,
or my kid is screaming and yelling,
mm,
whatever it is, there's that part of your brain that says, we're about to die. What are we going to do to survive? We're going to hide.
mm. So speaking on ways to help people or suggestions to kind of help other people get their ball rolling, what would be some of the modalities that you would recommend to some of the listeners to start their journey? What are some of the modalities that you really believe
Oh
in?
my goodness, there are some amazing modalities. Not I'm a life coach, but I'm also a registered aromatherapist. Aromatherapy is beautiful, and it can elicit emotions that we didn't even know we had. If you find the right aromatherapist, they can help you do that. There's so much that you can do. Um, Massage, if you're in the right frame of mind and you're in the right place and you have the right massage therapist, that can begin the process of getting things unstuck.
Right.
Acupuncture is beautiful. Again, having the right acupuncture, being in the right place in the right frame of mind. Acupuncture can definitely release some of those energy blocks. Absolutely. I struggle with a sluggish liver and a sluggish gallbladder. Like every now and then it just gets bound up. And that's the stuff that I didn't deal with when I was younger. And now I have this disease happening in my body. And working with my acupuncturist, using aromatherapy, those things help to keep those organs functioning and moving in the right direction. And then obviously, because we're both coaches, working with a coach who understands trauma.
Hmm. Definitely.
And they don't have to be counselors, it's people. I think people don't really understand what coaches do. It's totally different than counseling. Um, and if your trauma is too much for that coach, your coach is going to tell you.
Right.
They're not going to sit there and pretend that they can do it if they can't.
If they're the right coach, they won't. I do want to touch on something, and it's like what you were saying about the right acupuncturist, the right massage therapist. It's like anything. It's even with you and I, Melissa, if a client or a potential, like somebody who's interested in working with us, they come to us, it's not that, as a client you work with any coach, and as a coach you work with any client. Before you make an agreement to work together and you make that commitment, there's always the process of finding out, feeling
Yes.
out if you are a good fit for each other, right?
Yes. Yes, because every coach should offer an enrollment conversation of some kind. Sometimes they ask you to pay for it. Sometimes it's free. It just depends on the coach. But that enrollment conversation is not a sales pitch if it's the right coach, right? It's not a sales pitch. It's an opportunity for you as the client to go, I jive with this person, or I don't like this person at all. And it's the same thing on the flip side for the coach to say, I really feel like I can hold a beautiful container for this person and help them become who they want to be. Or I am not the right coach for them. And by the end of the conversation, you'll both know, and you'll both be able to say whether or not you want to move forward. And it's the same, finding the right acupuncturist, the right massage therapist, the right aromatherapist, whatever it is. Definitely take advantage of whatever enrollment conversation they're offering. And you know what? Go ahead and have 10 different enrollment conversations with 10 different people. That is perfectly okay. I guarantee none of those coaches are going to be, trying to, grab you and pull you in.
No.
Because we want what's best for you, not just something for ourselves. We're not in it for ourselves.
Exactly. And you touched on something really beautiful there too. From a coach's perspective, no two coaches are the same. You and I will never
Not the
go
same.
the same. They could literally go through the same process, the same program, and the experience and how they come out on the other end will be different. It's
Yes.
just the beautiful way of coaching, right?
Yes.
Well,
Yes. It's true.
uh,
I
it
love
is.
you, Shanda, but we are not the same.
I love you too. And you know what? I'm thankful we're not the same. We are so
Yeah.
wildly, uniquely different. And that's what's so beautiful about being human, which is why it's so beautiful to embrace your authenticity. Oh, I can't stress that enough. Authenticity, vulnerability to me is one and the same, right? It's just about being who you are and not swaying from that, really holding strong in who you are and why you're here, right? Which
Yes.
I can speak to it for myself, and I'm sure you can as well. The reason why I am sitting here as a coach is because of my past, my path, all the challenging things, all the difficult times, the traumas that I've experienced, and all the great things too, were all part of my puzzle, right? That was perfectly curated for me to end up sitting here being able
Yep.
to show up and serve people the way that we get to serve people. And I think that is beautiful.
Yes, I agree. And you know what? It took me 50 years to get to a point where I was ready to really start helping other people.
Mm,
And that's okay.
that's okay. That's right.
Because like you said, every one of those experiences that I can look back on the timeline of my life and see have made it possible for me to be here right now, reaching the moms that I'm reaching right now.
Mm.
Yeah.
And they all, I feel like every circumstance, every event had a purpose, right? And
Absolutely.
a lesson, especially those hard ones. Whether we want to believe it or not, it's the harder lessons that you need to pay most attention to, right? Because
But I
that's
think,
where
go ahead, I'm sorry.
it's okay. I was going to say that's where I believe the magic is. And I always say that because I feel like we usually resist the biggest things in our life, right? The most difficult, the most challenging things. And it's where we find resistance, where we meet resistance, that it is the most important place to start looking.
I was just thinking, like, talking about trauma and holding things in your body and looking back at the timeline of life, right? And having that hindsight and being able to see things. Just because you look back doesn't mean you can see them,
Mm,
right? Doesn't mean I can see all the lessons super clear, because I might be holding
mm,
on to something and not letting it go, and have that experience still replaying again and again in my body, which is where having a coach is so beneficial, because they can, they're sitting on the outside and they can look in and see the beauty of what it was, not what happened necessarily, but the beauty of what it was. And
mm.
sometimes it's so helpful to have somebody outside of your own life looking in and
Mm.
saying, oh, that was terrible, but look at what happened as a
That's right.
result.
Yeah. I love that. Especially when you're referring to, looking in our past. And I'm not sure who says it, but there's a saying around, there's a reason why your window, if you're driving a car, your windshield is bigger than your rear view mirror, right? Because it
Mhm.
is more important to pay attention to where you're going than where you've been, but it's also important to remember where you've been, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah,
no matter what our past is, like it or lump it, it has molded us and shaped us into who we are today, right?
exactly.
So you can't
Yes.
just erase your past. You wouldn't be a human. If you erased everything, you'd be like a robot. You just wipe your memory and done. We don't want that, right?
Mhm. Right.
Yeah.
But even if you can't remember the past, right? I was
Right.
just reading something about trauma this morning, and so many people don't remember the specifics. And I
Mhm.
want to tell you that that's okay. You don't have to remember to
Mhm.
be able to move forward. We don't always have to see everything, every moment replayed to be able to move forward. And that's another thing I
Yes,
love about coaching, right? Because I don't need to know everything that's happened to you, Shanda, to be able to help you move forward.
I was going to touch on that. So thank you very much for bringing that up. That is
Yeah.
something that I constantly address with people who are interested or curious about starting their healing journey. Oftentimes they fear that in order for them to start their journey or heal their trauma, that they have to relive it and they have to bring everything up from the past. And it's like, it's not that way at all. You can share as much or as little as you want to. And the beautiful thing is, like we talked about at the beginning of our conversation, is that it's not about the event that happened. So what we want to know about as coaches are the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions that go through your body, that go through your head. And that
Exactly.
is what we work on from our end of things.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Wonderful. So here's a big question. This is a
Oh,
big
oh,
one.
okay. Hold on. Hold on. Okay.
So I like to ask this question because I'm always floored by the responses.
Okay.
So no pressure. Do you think, feel, believe that trauma is unavoidable? Sorry, avoidable. I better ask it properly. Do you feel trauma is avoidable?
I would love to say yes. I really would. I would love to say yes. But one of the tenets that I hold to, one of the paradigms that kind of fuels my practice and my beliefs, is no one escapes childhood unscathed. I don't care how wonderful your parents were. I don't care how amazing your life is and that you had every single thing handed to you on a silver platter. The meanings that we make of the things that happen around us is the trauma that we experience. It doesn't always have to be, I was molested, I was raped, I was abused. It could be, I felt neglected.
Mm.
I felt like I didn't matter. I felt like my words were useless. And if I hold that inside my body, that's trauma.
Mm.
I would love to say, yes, it's avoidable.
Mm.
But every child comes into the world born to imperfect parents,
Mm.
doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. And for me, I want to give the mothers that work with me better tools.
Yeah. I
And
think
that doesn't
I think
mean that their kids are going to come away unscathed,
no.
but they'll
I
be in a better position.
Yes. I agree with you completely. I heard a saying once, and I'll try to reframe it in a more polite way, but it was along the lines of, no matter how perfectly you think you're parenting, there will always be one major way that you mess up your kids, right?
Just
And
one? Yes. Woo!
mark that one down. And I think that is so it's so true. And I think a big part of that has to do with the generational trauma, the unspoken trauma, the, like, I want to call it even like your family legacy that gets
Yes.
passed down
Yes.
completely unknowingly most of the time,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes. 100%.
And
Yes.
so those could be things like, for example, um, how your grandparents treated each other then gets passed down to how your parents treat each other and then gets passed down to you, kind of example of that. But all those unspoken things, like you said, trauma doesn't have to be, I was molested, I was abused. It's there's an array of trauma, right?
Mhm.
And so one of the most commonly unspoken trauma is the generational trauma that's passed down.
Yes.
Did you want to touch on that at all and say anything to that?
Woo! So I've been studying, I'm actually planning to get certified in the emotion code training,
Okay.
which is energy work. And one of the tracts in that is, when we ask our body, is this my trapped emotion, or is this my mother's trapped emotion, or my grandfather's trapped emotion? That stuff comes down the pike. It just does. Even the scriptures talk about it. The sins of the father will be visited on the third and fourth generation. It's part of our DNA, some of it. And that's, I look back at my mom, who, when I approached her when I was 11 and said, this happened to me, she didn't believe me and pushed it aside and pretended it didn't happen. But when I look back and I realize the trauma that she lived through with an alcoholic, shell-shocked World War II veteran father, that was the best she could do in that moment to survive herself. And I don't know all the things that happened to my mom. We never discussed that. She's gone. We never discussed any of that. But what I do know is that she had an alcoholic, PTSD father. She did the best she could in that moment.
Yeah.
But those things get passed down. What was she believing about herself as a child that just unbeknownst was passed down to me? I don't know, because we didn't have that relationship. I didn't have that relationship with my mom where we could talk about those things. So I don't know, but I can look back and see she did the best she could in that moment with the tools that she had.
And I really like that piece. That speaks a lot to me. And over my things that kind of came to the light that I wasn't even aware of, first of all. And I think sometimes in the beginning, this will be hard to wrap your head around in the beginning, but over time, what happens, and this, I believe this is how you are actually progressing on your path, on your journey, is that when you can start to develop compassion for the people who may have hurt you the most.
Yeah.
When you can bring compassion to that person, it's definitely a sign that you're doing the work and the work is paying off. And furthermore, a little trick around that, this might be a little bit, it's a it's a tool, would be, you might not be able to have compassion for your parents as your parents, but you can maybe have compassion for your parents as children, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
If, like what you said, you know that your mom experienced XYZ, right? You knew some of her past, some of her upbringing. So you might not have been able to have compassion for your mom in that moment when she said what she said to you about not believing you, but you may be able to have compassion for her, at least to start, as
exactly.
her a child going through her own trauma.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's big.
Yeah. And just remembering, and it's hard to look at our parents because, they're our parents and we want them to be superheroes, right? But they're still human and they still make their own mistakes. They still make their own choices. And the tools that they had might not have been enough to help me, but I'm a grown ass woman now and I have the tools that I need to help myself.
That's right.
So,
yeah. Yeah.
Sorry about that, but it's true. It's true. Sorry, YouTube.
Bringing out the big guns, Melissa.
I said the A word.
See, I tried to be polite before, but I can see our walls are coming down here, which is totally fine. We're taking off some layers here, right? It's getting hot in here.
Yeah. I thought it was just me.
Woo. No, not just you. Woo. I'm gonna drop the A-bomb next.
Okay, all right.
So we talked about, different healing techniques.
Mhm.
Maybe what are some more untraditional ways of expressing someone's emotions, thoughts, feelings? What are some, not like Reiki or traditional like therapy stuff like that, but what are some other ways, like unconventional, like younger and before I was willing to talk about the things? um Writing for me was a big one. I remember being in middle school and I used to write poems like all the time. Music has always been a really big one for me. So what are some of your techniques maybe that you use personally or that you can recommend? Like I'm trying to think of like free ways, like that doesn't cost somebody money to at least just kind of like release some energy
Sure.
feels.
Okay. So I'm going to get all, aromatherapist on you.
Yes.
Um, a free way is to forest bathe. Have you heard of forest bathing?
Yes. Yes.
Going outside and being intentional with your time with nature.
Mm.
So I believe in my heart of hearts that God created every single plant on this planet for our benefit.
Mm.
And we were created, designed, whatever word you want to use, we were created to be in the garden. When man first appeared on this planet, I don't care what story you believe, when man first appeared on the planet, they were naked. They were naked out in the plants, right? They brushed up against the plants. They laid in the plants. They ate the plants. They smelled the plants. We have become so disconnected from nature
Mm.
in our 9 to 5, all, false lighting world. It's no wonder we're all depressed. It's no wonder we're all walking around like zombies half the time. Take some time. And it doesn't have to be like, all right, I'm going to go camping this weekend and spend the whole weekend in nature. For crying out loud, I walk outside in my bare feet and stand in my grass. There are minerals in the ground that our bodies are lacking because we don't walk around barefoot anymore. Connecting with the chemical constituents that are in those plants. Aromatherapy is wonderful. Aromatherapy is great. But aromatherapy is concentrated plant matter. So we took, several 100 pounds of plants and put them into a little bitty bottle. And this is wonderful. I'm not saying this isn't wonderful. I love it. It's wonderful. But going outside and walking up to a rosemary bush and bruising the leaf and allowing the oils from the plants to just soak in and smell it, I don't think there's anything better. Picking a flower, we have plumeria over here, picking up a plumeria bud and just allowing those chemical constituents to enter into your body. So what happens when you're breathing these chemicals, they interact with us. They interact with our blood, they interact with our organs, they interact in our brain. There are smells that you have from your childhood that can bring happiness and joy or bring you memories of things you don't want. And it would be worth exploring what those scents are, whether they're in nature or in a bottle.
I love love that you brought up the barefoot because I was going to ask you if you had any thoughts or feelings around grounding.
So I'm
And
going to tell you,
that is
we lived in Texas for 20 years, right? And Texas grass is very unpleasant. It's harsh, it's prickly, it's pokey. I did not walk around in bare feet. We lived in Texas for 20 years. I raised my kids in Texas. We have fond memories of Texas. My last few years in Texas, though, I started becoming anxious and depressed. And even went on medications for a while, went to counseling for a while. And I went to my acupuncturist one day. And after my session, she pulled my husband into her office and told him she needs to stop working. She needs to get out of the house. She needs to stop working. Her work is killing her.
Mm.
And I loved what I did, but I never saw the sun.
What did
I
you
never, say again?
What did you do?
I was a chiropractic assistant.
Okay, so you were
So
inside all day.
all inside all day, never saw the sun, never got out and did anything outside. And my body was suffering for it big time. So we moved over here to Guam, and it's beautiful here. Yes, it's gorgeous. And I don't spend every day outside, but I do go outside in my bare feet. And I do stand in the grass. And I let my body soak up not just vitamin D from the beautiful sun that we have over here, but the minerals from the ground that my body's lacking.
Yeah.
It's really important. And the energy from the earth. And I know that sounds kind of woo-woo to a lot of people, but scientists, it's science now. This isn't out there thinking anymore. Everything is made up of energy, everything. And everything in life is an energy exchange. And I'm either radiating or I'm draining. Those are my choices. I'm either giving off energy or I'm sucking energy. And would I rather suck energy from people or from what God has given me? I think I'll go outside and stand in the grass.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've gotten into gardening the last few years, and it came out of nowhere, quite frankly. I didn't really grow up with a garden. I think my dad had a garden 1 or 2 years when I was in middle school, maybe. My grandparents, now they had massive gardens. So there is a bit of nostalgia for me around that. But I started gardening a few years ago, and the pure joy that I get out of walking down across the grass in my bare feet to my garden and plucking, I have an herb garden, and plucking certain herbs, and just like my dog, I'm not even kidding you. I have my herb garden as well up on my deck, and my dog is constantly out there smelling at the herbs. He doesn't try to eat them, but he gets his nose right in there because he's just attracted to it. And it's like us as humans, we're just attracted to it. And it's like when I can pick, a fresh stalk of thyme or a couple leaves of sage and just smell them. Oh man, there's nothing greater. Like it really, I can't even really explain it. And again, it might sound woo to some people, but that whole barefoot in the grass, surrounded by things that are growing, surrounded by nature. I'm very fortunate where I live. I say this all the time. I can look out any window, any door, walk out of my house, any direction, and all I see is trees. That's all I see are trees. There's no concrete jungle for me out here. There's no buildings. It's just nature. And the other day, I was home by myself and I got to have some mummy time. And so I took my dog down to the creek, which is only a few hundred meters down the backyard here. And we have a nice pebble beach down there. And I sat down in the pebbles and I just sat there and just took it all in. I listened to the sounds, the leaves ruffling and the water running off the rocks. And I actually laid down and I fell asleep for probably about 20-25 minutes on the pebbles. And I woke up and I felt amazing.
Right. Well, you brought up a great point though. You were intentional.
Yes.
You didn't just, okay, because I'm guilty of this. Oh, I need to go for a walk. Let's just go for my walk and be done. But going down there, sitting down, feeling the pebbles on your bum, smelling all the smells, hearing the babbling brook go by, intention. Intention. You intentionally absorbed the energy.
Yeah.
Of that.
So I was open to receiving it, right? Yeah. And you just touched on something really huge as well when you said being intentional. And I find nowadays there's so much pressure to do certain things, to look a certain way, to be a certain type of person, that it's like the joy is getting sucked out of pretty well anything that we do out of obligation.
Yes.
We don't do things necessarily anymore because we want to do them or because we enjoy doing them. We do them because we feel like we have to. Oh, I have to go for my walk. Oh, I have to eat this food. Oh, I have to join this group, instead of I want to. It makes me feel good, right?
But how many people know what even feels good anymore? Do we
That's
even know?
that's true.
I don't know if we know.
It's a good question.
We've become so disconnected with our own bodies.
Yeah.
We've become disconnected with our own intuition. We outsource everything now, right?
Well,
We outsource everything.
yeah.
Like, should I wear makeup? Should I not wear makeup? What do you think, Shanda? We
Exactly.
outsource everything.
We're trained to look to the neighbor. What do they have? What are they doing? What do they want? Okay, well then I should want, have, do that.
Which I see in the moms that I work with all the time,
Mm,
because they come to me overwhelmed and they're like, I don't know what to do.
mm.
Actually, you do know what to do. You just don't know how to hear it. So let's help you hear what you know already. And one of the things I tell my moms is, you are the perfect mom for your children. No one else can be the mom that you are for your children. You were placed exactly where you need to be for those children. And guess what? Those children are the perfect children for you as well. We just have to learn, like, that I actually know what I'm doing.
Mm.
But we've outsourced all of it. We don't trust ourselves anymore at all with anything.
You know, just as much as it's important to listen to our own authenticity and try and stay in alignment with who we are, I feel like another thing that needs to be mentioned here is that we also have to allow our children to be who they are, and
Absolutely.
not try to influence them or sway them or encourage them to be different. You know,
Yep.
maybe you have a child who's goofy. Maybe you have a child who's loud. Maybe you have a child who likes to talk. Let them express themselves. Let them be who they are, you know?
There is no box. Do you
Yeah.
know that? There's no
Mm,
box. We need to
yeah.
throw the box out the window, because none of my children are the same. I have 4 kids. They're all completely different. All of them. There is no box.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I try to help my moms understand. There's no box. There is no, your child is not going to fit in any box, because the box doesn't exist anymore. We've thrown the box away.
You know, I was reading not long ago, and I was reading around this exact same thing that we're talking about. And it was about, if you think of, okay, a parent continue, and by the way, this is not a blame shame thing. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. You
Never.
don't know until you know. So I'm just simply bringing awareness to this, right? Um, but there was a part that I was reading, and it was about, think of a parent who consistently suppresses their children's emotions. So they're like, don't do that, don't say that, stop doing that, put that down, over and over and over. So you're training your child to not experience the full range of emotion, right? Then you're also training your child to not fully express their feelings when they're supposed to be feeling them. So then when they grow up and they get older, and say they're like preteen or teenagehood, if that makes sense, and what happens is, then we're like, well, what's the matter with you? Why aren't you doing this? Or why don't you
Why
know?
won't you, why won't you talk to me?
Because they don't know how. They've been trained to not know how. So I feel like that's also another shift that we need to make as a society, is just allowing that space for our children and allowing them to be children. Hey, I'm guilty too sometimes. I can sometimes expect a lot from my little 6-year-old, and I catch myself, which is, I'm thankful for. I catch myself and I'm like, wait a minute, he's 6 years old. He's allowed to not know how to do this yet, or he's allowed to make a mess and not clean it up right away, just let them be children. And furthermore, get down on the ground and play with them, right?
Right. I always said one of the best things, I love the relationship that I have with my adult children.
Mm.
All of my kids are grown. My youngest son's 28. We don't talk all the time, but when we talk, we talk. And I love the relationship that I have with my adult children. And why can I have this relationship with my adult children? Because I had a relationship with them when they were little.
Mm.
Right? And our kids are going to come to us with things that we think are inconsequential. But to them, it's the world. And if we don't take a moment to make sure that we're understanding their world, when it comes time to have an adult relationship with them, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, we need to be that
Because,
safe for them.
yeah. And just, Mom, I can't open this. Why can't I open this? Well, let me help. What's the problem? Let's figure this out together. Creating a relationship with them when they're young makes it possible to have a relationship when they're older.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Is your dog having issues?
Yes, my dog is having a bit of, he thinks somebody's here. He's like, he
Oh,
thinks he's a guard dog, but
got
he's
it.
probably the most chicken dog ever. So he likes to bark a lot.
Yeah. Yep. We have a scaredy cat. I get it.
Yeah, he's literally afraid of the cat.
Yeah. We have a 14-pound cat that runs and hides whenever anyone new comes over. We get it.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap things up here. So before we head out, I would love to know what your biggest takeaway is from our wonderful conversation today.
Oh my word. How do I narrow that down?
Whatever comes up first.
I just think it is so wonderful to have other people who understand, to be able to talk with other people who get it. And like I said, you're not me, I'm not you. We are completely different people. Yet we have this understanding between us. And that, I don't know, that just changes everything. It makes it possible for everything to change. And I believe that we were not put on this planet to go through life alone.
Oh no, we are very social creatures, right?
And we have to have those relationships. We have to have connections. And having a vulnerable talk about a topic that can be very difficult.
Yeah.
That's a vulnerable connection. I love it.
And I agree with you. And you said it without even saying it, community, right? I'm a believer that healing happens in community.
Absolutely.
And a community can start exactly like this, you and me talking. Yes. And then over time, we bring more people and our conversation gets bigger, broader, wider, more people, right? Community doesn't have to be 200 people, doesn't have to be 2,000 people. It can be 2 people, right?
Well, the scriptures even say where 2 or more are gathered.
There.
Where 2 or more are gathered together.
Yes.
That's a community, 2 or more.
And one of my pieces that I will share is that I've written about this many times too. Anybody who follows me on social media, I suffered in silence for many years because I was too afraid to talk about it. So I stayed silent. And it wasn't until I started opening up and talking about it and finding the people that I felt safe to talk about it with, that I started to see relief and I started to see hope and I started to see almost the world in a different view, right? A different lens, a different perspective. So I do want to encourage people to go find your community, because there are people who have gone through what you're going through. There are people who have come out of it. There are people who are on the other end of it. And it's important to surround ourselves with like-minded people.
Right. And sometimes it might feel very difficult to do that with people that you know and love. And that is one of the reasons that therapists, counselors, and coaches exist.
Exactly.
Because sometimes it's easier to open up your rib cage and allow your heart to be seen with someone that you know is holding you with open, soft, gentle hands. So find that community. Yeah, 100%.
Beautiful. So Melissa, what is next for you?
What is next for me? Oh, wow. Next week, actually, I don't know when this video is going to go live on your YouTube, but starting August 2nd, I have a water challenge, increase your water intake challenge over in my mom's struggle bus group on Facebook. It's a private group for moms. And why water? I did a 10-week series on stress, and the 2 most engaged days were the days that I talked about water. People were just grasping for that information. So I'm doing a 5-day challenge on how to increase your water intake safely and sustainably. Most of us walk around going, oh, I need to drink more water. Well, what the heck does that mean? I need to drink more water. So we're going to dive into all of that. And then, like I said at the beginning of our conversation, coming up in September, I'll have another group starting. It's called 5 Steps from Chaos to Peace. And that's all it is. It's 5 steps. It's very simple, but very transformational. And then, of course, anyone who is interested in working one-on-one can reach out. And my website is just lemonbalmcoaching.com. Lemon Balm, the scientific name is Melissa officinalis. So that's why I chose Lemon Balm for my coaching.
And I'll be sure to put those links in the comments under this video, regardless of where it's posted, YouTube, social media, so that people can find you. Because that was going to be my last question for you, was where can people find you?
Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and then, of course, my website. And it's all under Lemon Balm Coaching.
Beautiful. Well, Melissa, it has been an absolute pleasure. This conversation has been fun. It's been insightful. It's been an experience. So thank you so much for showing up and
Absolutely.
for being vulnerable. I just want to say thank you so much for showing up and just showing everybody who you are, and staying strong in that. So thank you for all the work that you do, and keep doing all that beautiful healing work that you do.
Thank you. I'm very proud of myself for not breaking out into song or quoting movies. Those are the other 2 things that I pretty much do all the time.
We would have enjoyed that just the same. Awesome. Well, and there we go. We have our exit. All right, Melissa, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shanda.
Take care.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.